Some teams walk into the World Cup with a path so clear you could draw it in crayon. Easy opponents, winnable games, a real shot at the knockout rounds. Other teams get thrown into a group with 3 former world champions, play 3 of the best squads on the planet, and go home after 12 days without anyone even remembering their name. And here's the thing. That difference, easy group or death group, is decided months before the tournament starts, before anyone touches a ball, before any player boards a flight. It's decided by a ranking system that most football fans have never actually looked at. A system that uses formulas, weighted multipliers, and a frozen snapshot in time to sort the world's best national teams into 4 color-coded pots. And the craziest part? The people who understand it best aren't coaches, they aren't analysts, they're mathematicians. Today, we're going deep on the FIFA World Ranking, how it works, why it was broken, how FIFA tried to fix it, why it's still a little broken, and why any serious football fan should understand it. Because it's quietly shaping tournament outcomes before the tournament even exists. Before we get into the rankings, let's establish the problem they're trying to solve. Because FIFA didn't invent seeding because they love spreadsheets. They invented it because without it, tournament draws become a complete disaster. Imagine you have 32 teams. You need to split them into 8 groups of 4. If you draw completely randomly, you might end up with Brazil, Argentina, France, and Spain in the same group. 4 of the best teams in the world, playing each other 3 times in the group stage, 3 of them going home before the round of 16. Meanwhile, another group has 4 teams ranked between 40th and 80th in the world, and all 4 of them are basically guaranteed to advance with some basic effort. That's a terrible product. Fans hate it, broadcasters hate it, the teams themselves hate it. And FIFA, whatever you think of them, understands that the commercial and competitive value of the World Cup depends on a degree of balance. The best teams should be spread out. The group stage should be competitive, but not suicidal. So seeding exists to manage that. The top seeds go into pot 1. They get drawn first, 1 per group, which means the 8 best teams anchor 8 separate groups and can only meet each other in the knockout rounds. Theoretically, the host nation always gets a spot in pot 1 regardless of their ranking. Always, even if they're ranked 50th in the world. That's a whole other conversation. But for everyone else, your pot position is determined by one thing: the FIFA World Ranking. So yeah, understanding that ranking isn't just trivia. It's understanding how the entire competitive structure of the biggest sports tournament on Earth gets set up. The original FIFA ranking system launched in 1992, and for most of its life, it was built on a formula that tried to account for so many variables that it basically stopped making sense. The system started reasonably enough. You get points for winning, you lose points for losing. Draws somewhere in the middle. Fine, normal, makes sense. But then, FIFA started layering on multipliers. First multiplier, game importance. A World Cup final was worth more than a qualifier. A qualifier was worth more than a friendly. Second multiplier, confederation strength. The idea here was that beating a team from a stronger confederation should count for more than beating a team from a weaker one. So, FIFA assigned numerical values to each confederation based on how their teams performed at World Cups. Now you multiply your result by the importance of the game and by the strength of the confederation. We're already in tax form territory, but wait, there's more. Third element, Points were averaged over a rolling window of the last 12 months, with additional weight given to the last 4 years. The result of all this? Rankings that sometimes looked completely disconnected from reality. Teams that went on incredible runs but didn't move much. Teams that coasted on old results and sat in the top 10 without earning it. Belgium spending years near the top of the ranking despite never winning a major tournament. Nations playing mostly friendlies, gaming the system by scheduling weak opponents and racking up wins against no one. And the absolute classic problem: teams in confederations with fewer competitive games getting structurally disadvantaged because they simply didn't have the match volume to accumulate enough points, no matter how well they played. By the mid-2000s, the criticism was loud enough that FIFA couldn't ignore it anymore. The system needed surgery. Section 3. The 2018 overhaul. FIFA discovers chess. In 2018, right before the World Cup in Russia, FIFA scrapped the old system and replaced it with something fundamentally different. They adopted a model based on the ELO rating system. Yes, ELO, as in the rating system developed in the 1960s by a Hungarian-American physics professor named Arpad Elo, originally designed to rank chess players, now being used to rank national football teams in front of billions of people. Here's how ELO logic works at its core. Every team starts with a rating. When two teams play, the system calculates the expected result based on the difference in their ratings. The higher-rated team is expected to win. The lower-rated team is expected to lose. After the game, points are transferred based on what actually happened versus what was expected. Beat a team you were expected to beat? You get some points. Not many, because you did what you were supposed to do. Beat a team significantly better than you? You get a lot of points, because that was a genuine upset and the system rewards it. Lose to a team you were supposed to lose to? You don't lose much, because that was already the expectation. Lose to a team ranked way below you? That hurts. A lot. Because that was not supposed to happen. The elegance of ELO is that it's self-correcting. Ratings naturally find their level over time as teams play more games. It doesn't require confederation multipliers or rolling averages or complicated weighting formulas. The math does the work. FIFA's version adds one key element on top of ELO: match importance. A World Cup game is worth more than a qualifier. A qualifier is worth more than a friendly. The exact multipliers are published on FIFA's website if you want to go down that rabbit hole. But the core logic is, the bigger the game, the more the result matters to your ranking. The formula, stripped to its bones, is points won or lost equals the importance of the game multiplied by the difference between the actual result and the expected result. That's it. That's the whole thing. It sounds clean, and compared to what came before, it genuinely is. Say England plays San Marino in a World Cup qualifier. England is ranked around 5th in the world. San Marino is ranked near the bottom, around 210th. The expected result is an England win, almost certainly a heavy one. The ELO system knows this, so if England wins 5-0, they get points, but not many. The system essentially shrugs and says, yeah, that was expected. But now flip it. Say Cameroon, ranked around 40th, beats Brazil in a competitive match. That is not what the numbers expected. That's a genuine upset. Cameroon's rating shoots up significantly. Brazil's drops more than it normally would from a single loss. Because the system is calibrated to punish underperformance and reward overperformance. Here's where it gets interesting in a practical sense. This means small nations can make significant ranking jumps by doing something almost impossible, but not literally impossible. Beat a giant in a competitive setting. Once. And on the flip side, elite teams can't just coast. One shocking loss to a lower-ranked opponent in a World Cup qualifier costs you ranking points at a rate that a string of comfortable wins might not fully recover. In theory, this creates a more honest picture of the global hierarchy. In practice, well, we'll get to the complications shortly, because there are complications. Every confederation has its own calendar, its own structure, its own number of competitive games per cycle. And competitive games are the ones that move your ranking meaningfully. UEFA, Europe, is a machine. Between the Nations League, European qualifying, the European Championship, and various playoff systems, European teams can play 30, 40, sometimes 50 competitive matches in a 4-year cycle. That's a huge volume of ranking-relevant data. CONMEBOL, South America, plays a brutal World Cup qualification campaign. A 10-team round-robin where every single match is competitive and every single match matters. The South American qualification process is widely regarded as the hardest in the world. Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay. These teams earn their high rankings through an absolutely relentless gauntlet. When they sit at the top of the FIFA rankings, you believe it. But then you look at some other confederations. The AFC, Asia, qualifies teams through a format where top teams can sometimes avoid the hardest matches until very late in the cycle. CONCACAF, North and Central America, has improved its structure but still plays fewer total competitive games than UEFA or CONMEBOL. OFC, Oceania, has only one automatic World Cup berth and limited high-stakes competition compared to the big confederations. What does this mean in practice? It means a team in a smaller or less densely competitive confederation might be genuinely improving, playing well, developing talent, winning games, but they're not accumulating enough high-weight competitive match results to reflect that in their ranking. Meanwhile, a European mid-table team is playing competitive games every 3 months and naturally climbing the chart just from sheer volume. The system doesn't explicitly punish you for your geography, but it doesn't correct for it either, and the effect is the same. Section 6. The freeze date. Timing is everything. Alright, here is the detail that most fans genuinely don't know about, and once you know it, you'll never watch a World Cup draw the same way again. FIFA doesn't use your ranking on the day of the draw. They freeze the rankings at a specific cutoff date, usually several months before the tournament begins. Wherever you are in the rankings on that specific date is where you stay for seeding purposes. Full stop. So let's say a team has a brilliant run of form. They beat 2 top 20 opponents. They win a major tournament qualifier. They look dangerous, and everyone is starting to notice. But all of those results happen after the cutoff date. For the draw, none of it counts. They still get seeded based on where they were months ago. They still go into pot 3. They still might get drawn into a group with 2 or 3 top nations and face the consequences of a seeding that no longer reflects who they actually are. And it works the other way too. A team has a terrible autumn. Bad results, bad form, injury crisis. Their ranking drops. But the cutoff date happened before their bad run. So they walk into pot 2 or pot 1 based on a ranking they no longer deserve by anyone's honest assessment. The freeze isn't arbitrary cruelty. FIFA needs a stable number to organize the draw. You can't have rankings shifting on the morning of the ceremony. The logistics demand a cutoff. But the consequence is real. Teams get seeded based on a historical snapshot, and that snapshot might be anywhere from 3 months to half a year old by the time anyone actually plays a game. In modern football, 3 to 6 months is an enormous amount of time. Teams change, form changes, squads change. You know the type. The team that's clearly hit form at exactly the wrong time. The dangerous underdog that everyone in football circles is talking about. The squad that peaked in late spring after the cutoff had already passed. They go in unseeded, get drawn against a giant, and the narrative writes itself. Shock upset. Giant killing. Nobody saw this coming. Except anyone who'd been watching closely kind of did see it coming. The ranking just didn't. At the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, the seeding worked out in some predictable ways and some very interesting ones. Argentina, who would go on to win the whole thing, were comfortably in pot 1. Their group stage was challenging enough, but manageable. They advanced, they built momentum, they peaked at the right time. But consider some of the mid-tier teams who entered pot 3 or pot 4 because their confederation structure or their freeze date timing left them with rankings that didn't tell the whole story. Teams capable of beating anyone on a given day, going into groups with multiple top 10 opponents, playing essentially in elimination mode from Game 1. Morocco is the cleanest recent example of the seeding system's imprecision. Going into Qatar 2022, Morocco was seeded into pot 2, which is a reasonably good position, but few outside of African football were taking them seriously as genuine contenders. They went on to reach the semi-finals, the first African nation to do that in World Cup history, beating Spain on penalties, eliminating Portugal, putting on a defensive performance against France that was borderline elite. Did the ranking system fail there? It didn't have them in pot 1. It didn't give them the protected seeding of a genuinely elite team. But it also didn't condemn them to a death group. The system in that case was roughly right, just slightly underestimating a team that turned out to be historically good. The more problematic cases are the ones that don't have happy endings. The team that gets destroyed in the group stage not because they were bad, but because the math put them in an impossible position. We don't make documentaries about those teams. We forget them by the quarterfinal stage. But the ranking system helped write their fate. Here's a question worth asking. If you're a national team federation, can you actually manipulate this to your advantage? Can you deliberately schedule games to climb the rankings before a cutoff date? Honestly? Somewhat. Under the old system, it was rampant. Nations would schedule a run of friendlies against weak opposition, rack up wins, accumulate points through volume, and arrive at the ranking snapshot in a deceptively flattering position. The ELO-based system is harder to game because the strength of opponent factor is built in. Beating a weak team doesn't move you much. You need meaningful results against meaningful opposition to make real ranking progress. But here's the subtle play that still exists. If you know when the cutoff date is, and federations absolutely know, you can try to schedule your most important competitive fixtures to land before that date. Nations League games, friendlies against higher-ranked opposition. If you peak at the right moment on the right side of the calendar, you walk into the draw in a better pot than you might otherwise deserve. It's not cheating, it's optimizing within the rules. Every serious federation with a competent administration is thinking about this. Scheduling is strategy. The calendar is a competitive tool. Section 9. Is there a better way? So knowing all of this, is the current system good? Is it fair? Should FIFA change it again? Here's a measured take. The 2018 ELO-based system is genuinely better than what came before. It's more transparent. It's harder to game. It rewards actual performance against real competition rather than flattering averages padded by irrelevant friendlies. The foundational logic is sound. But it hasn't solved the confederation imbalance problem. Teams playing in densely competitive environments will always accumulate more ranking-relevant data than teams in less competitive environments. That's structural. Fixing it would require either changing how confederation competitions work, which FIFA has limited control over, or introducing some kind of weighting adjustment that compensates for match volume. And it hasn't solved the freeze date problem because that problem can't really be solved. You need a cutoff. Any cutoff will disadvantage someone based on timing. That's just math. What FIFA could do, and what some analysts have suggested, is shorten the gap between the ranking snapshot and the tournament draw. If the freeze date is closer to the draw date, there's less time for the rankings to become stale. Teams have less opportunity to diverge significantly from their seeded position. It doesn't fix everything, but it reduces the gap between the number and reality. The other thing worth saying is this: no ranking system is ever going to be perfect. You're trying to collapse the complexity of 211 national teams, dozens of different competition formats, and years of results into a single number, a single position on a list. And then use that list to make decisions with enormous competitive consequences. Some information is always going to be lost. Some teams are always going to be slightly misrepresented. The question isn't whether the system is perfect. It's whether it's honest and transparent and better than the alternatives. Right now, mostly yes, with asterisks. So, back to where we started. Some teams get an easy group, some teams get a death group. And the difference between those two outcomes is built on a number, a ranking, calculated from months of games, weighted by match importance, adjusted for opponent strength, and then frozen in time at a specific date and used to sort the world into 4 pots. The core idea, if you want one sentence to take away from all of this, the FIFA World Ranking is the most consequential number in world football that most fans have never actually thought about. It shapes who plays who. It shapes which underdog story gets the chance to happen, and which one gets quietly eliminated in 3 games. It's designed by mathematicians, navigated by federations, and mostly ignored by the people watching at home.